name is Evan Meyer, and you're listening to the Undomesticate Podcast, a show where we explore how to deprogram domestication, restore the health of our body, mind, and spirit, and return to our sovereign roots.
It's good to finally sit down and do this. We just had a incredible weekend. We're here in Austin. Mm-hmm. For those watching this, came last week. Me, you, Nick Warner, Chris Marhefka, a whole bunch of other beautiful humans. Ended up coming here, not really knowing what we were getting together for, and coming out with just some really, really powerful ideas and collaboration. So it's been really great spending time with you. And now we're here at your beautiful home. Mm-hmm. Hot, sticky May day in Austin. Yeah, still getting used to it. But yeah, man, I'm excited to do this. And I just want to drop in and start by sharing a little bit for those of you, or for the people who are watching this or listening to this that don't know you, who you are, how you came to the work that you do, kind of what you do, and maybe just tell a little bit about your story.
Yeah, man. Well, I got started at the ripe age of 22 in this work, mm-hmm. but really my journey started back in when I was in high school. When I was in high school, I had a friend introduced me to meditation. I was in some silly club, and they were like, "Hey, I want to get everybody together and do a meditation." And that night when we did that, like pretty much the rest of my trajectory changed, because I realized like I had an experience that was unlike anything I'd ever had before, and made me see that there was some kind of internal world in me that was unexplored, that I had never touched. And after that one practice, I kept it up. I looked up online, like, what is meditation and how to practice it. I found instructions for actually Anapana that they teach in Vipassana. Mm-hmm. And I just kept doing it. And I was gifted books from my grandmother that really impacted me. Books like The Prophet, Conversations with God, that I was reading at a young age. And so I kind of, from then on, had a tilt towards the interior world. And at the same time, I also, I struggled with, particularly my relationships with women. Like, girlfriends that I had would cheat on me, and I just never, it never clicked for me. I always felt pretty alone and lonely in the world. And so I kind of leaned on that internal world as a place of solace. Mm-hmm. And all throughout college, it was kind of the same. Like, I just felt like drinking wasn't that cool for me. Drugs were a place to numb out, but were not ever that fulfilling. And all the while I'd go to the occult section of the library and get, the books that were the most intriguing on Tibetan Buddhism, or, the theosophists, or just things that really called to me, that I didn't really know a lot of people who in my circles who were doing the same thing. And at that whole time, right after I graduated college, the first thing I did was go and do my first serious meditation retreat. And that was like...
Was that Vipassana?
That was Vipassana, yeah. And that was a big game changer, because I had been doing it this whole, for, at that point, 6-7 years.
You'd been meditating?
Been meditating.
Was there a particular style or something that you were doing before that?
I would do two different things. I would either listen to music, and that would be my concentration, mm-hmm. or I would... just do breath awareness that I had learned way back then. Mm-hmm. Actually, early on, I would try and disorient myself, because the first couple of times I meditated, I could astral travel. I had no idea what the fuck that was. Yeah. That's why it was so impactful for me.
Interesting.
It was like all of a sudden I could literally go anywhere I wanted to, do anything I wanted to. It was like the first time I meditated, I flew out of my body and flew out of the hotel room that we were in and up into the building. I could see the whole fucking city.
You remember it pretty clearly?
Yeah. And I was like, well, what is this?
Wow.
But this is way cooler than those drugs that those guys are doing.
Totally.
This is awesome. So I tried to recreate that for a while, and I would try and do these things to disorient my mind, and I could do it for a while, and then I kind of got stuck around these expectations of how it should be and stuff like
Right.
that. So I ended up, a lot of the time I just either listen to music and pay attention to it. And like if my mind moved, like that was my concentration point, or my breath. But that first Vipassana, I was like, it was just this next level of depth, right? And you know, like this just, there's nothing like sitting still for 10 days, paying attention to your breath and your body.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that we really connected on when we met a few years ago through John Wineland's work, we were both in EMLT together. Was that 3 years ago now, I think, was Vipassana. Because for me, the same thing. It was, got into meditation. I was more dealing with anxiety, kind of like depression, and had these spiritual inklings and studied a lot of interesting books and philosophy and stuff in my late teens, but didn't get into meditation until I was in my early 20s, and it was with Chogyam Trungpa, with Shambhala, because I was living in Nova Scotia in Canada, and after his whole organization kind of fell apart, many people moved to Halifax, Nova Scotia for whatever, from Colorado, and they had a temple there, but I was living in this weird world where like I didn't avoid the drugs and drinking, like I was still partying, but I was also like going to these meditation retreats, and I lived this super polarized kind of life, you know, where I literally remember the first meditation retreat I went to. It was just a day long. It was 3 days, but it was, you'd go through the day at the center, at the Shambhala Center, and then you'd go home in the evening. And on the Sunday, the last meditation, it finished in the mid-afternoon, and then I walked right from the temple to a kegger and just got wasted. And I was like, reflecting back on that, you know, I'm just thinking this was the polarity of my life. Right. Like I was living two lives essentially, where I had these real spiritual inklings and desires, but I didn't have the confidence to really stand in that. Yeah. And even I remember my buddy, one of my best friends, he's like, "You're going on a meditation thing?" And he's like, "You're so weird, man." And I was just like, "Oh, like that's why I don't want anyone to know about this stuff." Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then years later, I did some other work and started to really come into myself. And then same thing. I think I was it wasn't until I was 26 when I sat that first Vipassana, and I was like, "Oh, like this," because I hadn't had the experience in meditation like you had, where you had immediate, like profound shifts. I was just like, "This is really good for me, and it's helping with my anxiety." And I was into yoga, and so it was kind of paired with that. But after that first Vipassana, like it really solidified what's possible, you know, just sitting in that intense experience. I'm curious though, what do you think it is that, like, you had this natural proclivity almost to avoid a typical, you know, the messiness that a lot of like late teens and early people in their early 20s, and oftentimes people beyond that too, get into. But it seemed like you kind of went on more of a straight and narrow path. Was there anything particular reason why, or did you just feel like you came into the world kind of already walking that path? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it was a combination of that. Like that's just kind of my way. And like there's a kind of like, I would say like that's the soul answer. The human answer was also just that I felt fear. I felt afraid of losing control. I felt afraid of being seen. I felt misunderstood often, so I wouldn't put myself forward to be seen. But I think it's both. I think a part of that was like me trying to wrestle with this sort of soul proclivity to that way that is yeah, kind of the straight and narrow, or the yogic, or the interior that was not was not my natural environment that I grew up in. I mean, I grew up in like an affluent town in California, and
that's just so unusual, you know, for someone that young. I see it more with younger people now, actually, but just like, fuck, like I wish that I had just found meditation at 20 when I did, and just been like, oh, this is the thing, instead of having to wrestle back and forth with it until it took me another 5 or 6 years to really like, you know, claim like, okay, like I'm on a more spiritual path than trying to prove something to other people or whatever like that. But anyway, how did that all lead? So you did this Vipassana, and then it kind of led you to this work, right? And, and I know a little bit about your story, but I'd love for you to share it.
Yeah. So after that, I found this, like, you know, this depth of being that I just was next level.
After your Vipassana.
After the Vipassana. And the first thing I did after that was do another one. And I also started traveling. I had some money saved up from working in college. And so I went to to Costa Rica, and I was there for a while. In Panama, I was playing music. I was kind of traveling around and going to these meditation retreats. And as well, throughout early college, I started to do yoga. So I went and did a yoga teacher training in Mexico that was, super full on and intense, and got some of that native Mexique Mexican wisdom, and did my first Temazcal and all of that. And kind of all the while, I had this sense that like something was missing, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But I had the sense that it had something to do with men and masculinity. And I ended up going back to California, and I went to a retreat there, or a festival there, and I found this thing that was like, there was like a whole, list, like those conscious California festivals. You got your smorgasbord of all the things you can do to
buffet,
consciousness, exactly, consciousness, and ecstasy and bliss. And one of them was the men's initiation workshop.
Okay.
And that it just hit me. I was like, I have to go to that. Like I knew that thing that was missing had something to do with not being initiated. And I don't know why I was thinking about that stuff. I don't remember really reading about it or anything like that. But I just knew it had something to do with like, fuck, as an American kid, I didn't get initiated. No one said like, hey, you are no longer a boy, and here's an experience to like take you through to the other side into your manhood. We got our driver's license. We got like,
Totally.
we could buy cigarettes or
buy alcohol,
or whatever.
Join the military,
Exactly.
like all these weird ass ways of doing things, for sure.
And that's not it.
Yeah.
That's not it. There's no real challenge or experience in that takes you to that, what we need, because we don't get initiated. Women get initiated from their body. Their body.
Biologically,
Yeah, nature initiates them. Boys need men to do that. And I didn't get that. So I sought that out, and that workshop, I was like, done. I was just like, this is fucking
How old were
it.
you at that time?
I was 22.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 22. I ended up hiring. I ended up hiring the man who ran that workshop. He became my mentor for the next. Well, I mean, he still is in a way, but we worked together for 6 years, and I studied as an apprentice with him, and started to help him run his programs and his retreats and his workshops. And I just threw myself into it. Just threw myself into it, and I never stopped.
What do you think it was that happened at the one workshop that you went to at the festival that you were like, that's it?
The thing that really the moment that stands out to me the most, there's a couple things. One was we did a practice that actually we've done together later on, the Feel the Feeling You've Never Felt. And I just remember there were these, I was in a group of 4, and there were, in that exercise, I was encouraged to feel the thing that I'd never fully felt in my being, in my body, in my life. And I was held back by these 2 like huge burly men as I was just, raging forward with 22 years of, like unfelt feeling. And I remember like how strong I felt, how free I felt, how just fucking expressed I felt in that moment, and how these guys who were fucking huge were struggling to hold me. And so that moment really stood out as like this breaking free of the conditioning that I had, taken on and put on myself and internalized. And the other thing was how grounded and still and present Zot, who was facilitating the workshop, felt to me. There was just this depth to him that I was like, I want that. Like, and I didn't really have that as a conscious thought, but I just was drawn to it, magnetized to it. So those 2 things, like, I just had this sense of like, okay, whatever we were doing here was going to lead to that. It was going to lead to that kind of embodiment. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I just fucking threw myself at it I haven't stopped. I literally have not stopped.
Totally. Yeah. No, my experience is really different, and I can totally attest to that practice, being so powerful, dragging Cliff and Amir, who like across the floor of the dance hall in Shasta with John, and just like they're like, holy shit, and I cracked Cliff's rib. I was just so deep into practice, I was just like,
fuck.
So powerful though, right? Just there's something that whole, there's a whole energy that just unlocks when you have the safety and the capacity and the room to let that out in a way that you can actually just like let it out without feeling like, oh fuck, what's my impact going to be? Or like people are going to judge me, or I'm going to get arrested, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Or I have to be drunk to get this angry, or however people kind of, reconcile that stuff with like those emotions that we can't really feel, and having the space to do that. And it was very similar for me when I initially, whatever, I was called to sit in a men's group, and immediately after the first session, I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is what I've been missing. I've been doing Vipassana. I've been sitting with plant medicines. I've been traveling the world. Very similar, right? I've been living in South America. I've been searching. I did landmark. I was doing all this stuff. And then I sat in a men's group, and it was just facilitated by a few guys who I still work with today. And it just unlocked something. I was like, oh, this is what's been missing. Never been initiated. Same thing. Never really had an experience where it felt like there was a delineation between being a kind of a childhood and the mother, the child of my mother and my father, and a man. Yeah. And that led me to John, and of course that's where we met, and the rest is kind of history. So totally see that, and just the power that a lot of guys don't understand exists in this work. That it's really hard to get a feel for it just by listening to something or hearing people talk about it. You kind of got to get in a room, and when you meet those guys like Zat or like John or like a lot of these dudes who have cultivated that level of presence and depth, because it's different than Vipassana. Vipassana is it's active, but it's also a passive of like, oh, we got to burn away our karma and the sankharas and stuff. But when you get in a space where you can also touch on the stuff that's really there, the grief and the pain, and the joy and everything, the whole breadth of the experience, but actually bring it through expression. It really shifts things in a way that Vipassana didn't quite touch on for me, and just stillness meditation.
Well, the thing for me is that Vipassana is highly oriented towards the masculine. It's like all about awareness. It's like the feminine is, but you're outside of it, right? And the beauty of the kind of work that we do and we've been a part of is that when it's good, it's got that awareness, it's got that consciousness, but you bring that same depth into life, into your feeling, into your body, into your sex, into your relationship. And you live it. You don't just sit with it and observe the life that's happening inside you. You interact with it. You break its rib. You scream at its face. Like that's the beauty of this kind of work. And I haven't found anything like it.
Quite like it. Yeah. Well, I want to shift gears a bit, and I want to ask about something more recent for you, and that is this vision quest that you went on. That was with Jetty, right? Jetty Azuma.
Yep, Jetty Azuma.
And,
Compass.
I'd just love to hear about what led you to do something like that, and what your experience was like. Just to share a little bit for anybody listening about kind of the arc of that experience, what the constraints were, and then kind of what you're taking away from it. Yeah.
Well, first of all, let's say that it's kind of. It's kind of like an American colloquialism to say it's a vision quest.
Sure.
Because really it's not. We'll just be clear about that.
Yeah.
That people, it's important to honor those traditions that actually are that. So a traditional vision quest, is held by a certain group of people in a certain way. And we didn't quite do it in that way. So, but we, the group that I went with, Jetty Azuma and the Rising Man group and their program Compass, have a very similar. They pulled from different traditions, and they hold it in a really, really, really beautiful way. So essentially, what it was a group of men, myself included, went out into the wilderness here in Houston, Texas, and prepared for a couple days to go and be alone in the wilderness for 4 days and nights. Fasted from food. We had about a gallon of water for every day, and the purpose of which was to, it was every man's own unique experience. For me, when I was a kid, I was fascinated with Native American culture. I just had this like deep connection to them, and I remember like crying when I would read these books, just feeling so. Like both so connected to them as a as a culture, as a spirit, but also so fucking awful, thinking that my people did what was done to them. And so I think it was in reading those books early on that I first learned about what a vision quest was, or what it might be, where, when the boy would soon become a man, or was around that time, 12, 13, 14, he'd be sent off into the wilderness alone to fast and to pray and to receive a vision. And then, which is really important, the next step is to come back to his people, particularly to an elder, usually a shaman, to interpret that vision, to help him make sense of it, so that he would know what his purpose in the tribe was. And that experience is that thing that we were talking about was missing for all of us. That going away to a challenge, that, like a rite of passage is this beautiful razor's edge of like, I really want to do this thing, but I have no fucking clue if I can actually do it. Like, where the possibility of death is there, so that it's actually surmountable, right? There's no challenge in getting your driver's license. Like, there's no fucking psychological death that needs to occur. And on the other side of that, like coming back to the tribe to find out, okay, here's what you received. Here's how you're going to live it. Here's how it's going to come to life through you. And the moment I read about that, I knew I had to do it. I fucking knew it.
Was that a while back?
That was a while back.
That?
Oh, yeah. That was a while back. And I can't remember exactly when I learned about it, but I always knew, like, there's something in that.
Kind of putting that in the back burner.
Yes.
Like, there's something that I'm going to have to experience at some point when it calls to me. Yeah.
And, 3 or 4 years ago, I started to experience these really kind of bizarre experiences of hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, that really fucked me up, man. Like, really fucked me up. I became like highly neurotic around like how many meals. I would plan like 4, 5, 6 meals ahead of time. I like always have food with me for fear of it happening and I'd be unprepared. And my relationship at that time, she did a vision fast early, like maybe 3 years into our relationship. That was really powerful and really strong for her. And so that was another one of those, like, it came back around of like, oh yeah, here's this thing that I know I really have to do. And then she would start to say like, oh, you should really fucking do this.
Totally.
And bless her heart, she was right. But I resisted it. I resisted the call. I resisted that call to adventure over and over again. No. And, here in Austin, we go to my weekly fight class, and I'm there with Preston Smiles. It's a good fucking dude who you know. And one day he ran into class, and Jetty's in that class too. And he's got this pink piece of paper in his hands. He just runs in, gives it to Jetty, and then runs out. And before he runs out the door, I'm like, hey, what the fuck was that? What'd you just do? He's like, oh, it's my purpose statement. Purpose statement for what? Purpose statement for the vision fast I'm doing with Jetty.
That Preston was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Was he on your vision?
Exactly, yeah.
He was with you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
And I was like, when? He's like, April 7th through the 9th. I was like, I'm talking to Jetty. He's like, talk to Jetty. So in the showers, we're showering after a Muay Thai class, talking to Jetty. Jetty, man, I know I've always had to do this. I'm fucking scared. He's like, are you ready? I'm like, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Everybody else had already committed. I was like, he's like, all right, let's get together later today and we'll talk and we'll see. Got together later that day. We talked, and he was like, okay, I think, like he heard my why. He heard my reasons. And I said, give me the rest of the day. By the end of that day, I felt it, felt true, slept on it, text him in the morning, I'm in.
Nice.
And the moment I said I was in, it began, right? Because this was in some ways like, I've been blessed to receive a lot of initiations in my life because of the kind of work that I do and have been a participant in. But there is nothing like the old ways. There is nothing like going out into nature and having nothing but this. And so it scared the fuck out of me. And it was like this big like magnet or this big sun that I knew was in my future now, only like 5 weeks away, that was just pulling me forward. And it was this big, like, it was just like burning away all the things that were like, oh no, do you really need that? Do you really need that? Because I knew, like, oh, I'm not going to have that out there.
Were you still wrestling with the blood sugar stuff a little bit?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So pretty anxious, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure. And so that next day I started like getting serious about intermittent fasting and bringing my windows more and more and more and more. And just letting go. Because so in a traditional kind of rite of passage process, there's 3 stages. The first is severance. Severance is where you're cutting away the things that are not needed, and preparing to enter the second stage, which is the threshold, which is the actual experience of the thing that you're going into, which might be the Sundance, right, or it might be the Vision Fast, right? The thing that you're going to do, the ceremony, whatever it is. And that's those 4 days, right? For me, that was those 4 days, the threshold experience of, having entered into the threshold as somebody, but not yet quite returned as that new person. And now I'm in the 3rd stage, which is the incorporation, bringing the thing to life, which I received out there. But yeah, so I'm in severance and I'm scared. I'm seeing all the things that I'm afraid to lose, my woman, my comforts, my friends, my work, my habits.
A bed.
Yeah.
Food.
Dude, a bed. When I got back to a bed for the first time, I was like, fuck, this is a great invention.
Totally.
This is solid.
Give me the constraints. It was 4 nights. So 4 nights, you have water.
Yeah. So
no food. Tent.
No tent.
No tent. What did you have with you?
Yeah. So we had basically everything that we had fit into a backpack. Where we were, it had been raining for like a full straight week before we went. So when we got there, it was and it was raining when we got there too. So it was muddy. So they let us have a hammock and a tarp. So that was sleeping arrangements, hammock and tarp, sleeping bag. And then we had a gallon of water for each day. I had salt, which they encouraged. And, then I had some friends who had gone before me, so my friend Brandon Bozarth, he had gone and done this the year previously. And he was the another call to adventure. He came back and told his story to us as a community, and he invited me to come, and Ashay as well. And leaving that, I was like, we both looked at each other and we were like, I have to do that. I just fucking knew it.
So many calls.
So many calls.
Areas,
yeah, it's just like those
like
things
closing in on you.
Exactly. Yeah. So he gave me a little bit of the download of like, hey, whatever, drink your pee, or take B vitamins, like things like that. So I had some B vitamins that I would kind of put into my water. I had a notebook and a pen, and just clothes to switch into. That's it.
And so what happened out there? Like, tell me a little bit, maybe a few stories or a few things that you really, distinctions you made or something that you really got. Because I know I haven't done something quite as contained specifically for that, but a lot of people who have heard me talk know I did 28 days in southern Utah with minimalist survival, really focused on the survival. There wasn't really a spiritual component to it baked into the experience. However, obviously you spend 28 days off grid, the spirit's there. Spirit is with you the whole time. I did 5 nights, 6 days. I had food, but I had nothing else. That was all I had. I had food. I had access to a river. I built a friction fire. I built a shelter for myself. And out of those 28 days, those 5 nights alone on the side of a mountain where I was given an area that was kind of mine, so I wasn't wandering, some of the most profound nights of my life, and I wasn't even fasting, right? And I had books and shit. Like I had a few things with me. I had a book. I had a reference guide of southern Utah that I read like 50 times, and I could tell you every rock formation and bird in the whole state because I was like, man, there's not much to do all day. I guess I'll just keep reading this reference book over and over again. But but also it's hours and hours where I would literally just lay on the earth and watch nature and the squirrels and the birds and the animals go through their routes and everything, and hunt and like look for mates, and the pines, you know, blowing in the wind. And for me, it was like, you know, collecting firewood and just walking around. But so many hours just laying and just taking it all in. And there's just so many profound insights that came through me, you know, in those moments. And I had this giant Ponderosa pine that I had built I had a little A-frame shelter under, and that tree became, he was literally the structure which held my home. And I think I named him Brian or something. I took some notes, and I talked to him every day, and I would lean against him. People were like, oh my God, that's like the most woo, like fucking granola hippie shit ever. But when you're out there, like there's a level of animation that it takes a little bit for you to kind of let go of culture and society and your normal interactions with nature, and really drop into like, oh, there really is a spirit here. There's a spirit in all these things. This tree has a specific kind of personality or a specific energy about it, and so does this rock and everything. And we forget that. And that, you know, in my belief, and I'm sure you kind of, you know, that animistic belief of the world, it's really hard to read about or to go for a walk in nature and get that experience. But once you've had a few days, and especially when you're in a fasted state, I was in a huge calorie deficit. I'd lost 20 pounds by then, so I might as well have been in a fasted, you know, state. Like everything else really comes alive, you know. And one of my favorite kind of influencers or guys that I follow, Daniel Vitalis, he talks about how most people, when we hike or we go in nature, we're almost like astronauts, where we put on all the gear, you know, we got the walking sticks and the synthetic fibers and everything like that. And we're all like geared up, and we just stay on a path. And it's like, we're like astronauts on a foreign earth. And especially with this whole, you know, leave no trace, right? Which is great. Like, of course, don't leave garbage and don't, you know, over harvest things. But actually, we're here to interact with nature, right? And we're here to be close to nature, and we should be touching the trees, and we should be laying on the earth, and we should be interacting with the plants and the animals and everything around us, because we are a part of it. And we've kind of created this culture and this dogma around like nature divorcement, right? And so these experiences, like what you're going on, I imagine what you got out of it is similar to what I got out of it, is just deep, not only reverence, but just deep teachings in the nothingness, you know, just being out there. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what you got out of that experience.
Fuck, man. It's awesome. It's awesome. Well, so just like my friend Brandon, I came back, and I was actually one of the first guys to have the idea to have people send me off for my quest the night before as well. But I was lucky enough to have people come back and receive my story. And to tell it right takes like an hour and a half, right? To tell the whole thing takes about an hour and a half. But your story right there just reminds me of so many moments, you know. There was this spider at my spot that I named Mr. Spider. Every day I go out there and, you know, bow to Mr. Spider, say hello to him. And the one thing that I forgot to say that I had was that night after I had everybody over to kind of send me their blessings and their prayers, and also for me to say like why I'm going, you know, because that was an important piece for me, is to not just have this experience by myself and then come back and life continues as normal, right? I wanted, because a part of this is to shift one's own perspective, one's own kind of psychological view of themselves, spiritual view of themselves, the whole fucking thing, but also to be seen as that, right? That's an important part of that initiation and rite of passage traditionally, is like, that boy is no longer a boy. He's gone through that experience and he's returned a new man. I'm going to see him as such. So that was an important piece for me. And after that night, my woman Ashay wrote me a little love note. And I'm kind of putting the final touches on my gear bag and stuff like that. And she gives it to me, and I go, should I read it right now? And we both look at each other and go, nah, save it. So that was my book. That was this thing that I had.
This was like a letter?
A little like letter that she folded up, right? Yeah. And I threw it into my journal. And I knew I had it. And pretty much every day while I was out there, from the days of preparation, a couple days of preparation, to the days that I was on the fast, I was like, oh, should I read it now? Should I read it, you know, to give me inspiration and courage to go out there? day one, I was like, oh, should I read it to give me, like fullness for my next fucking 4 days? And particularly when I was on the fast, I was like, no, I'm going to save it for when I really need it. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like this little piece of chocolate that like, no, I'm going to wait on that one just for the perfect moment. It makes me tear up right now, even just thinking about it, because I waited till day 4 to read it. Day 4 was last day out there. And I read it, and it's just, I read like one sentence of it, and I just fucking cracked, just bawling. Because that was that was probably the theme of my fast was love and union. And every time I thought of her and her praying for me and her practicing for me, her eating for me, my heart would just swell. I could just feel every moment of it. And reading that love note that I had saved until that last day, and just feel, as I'm reading it, the wind is blowing and birds are chirping and the sun is shining, and I'm so close to the end of this thing that just daunted the fuck out of me for so long. Just broke me open. But you're so right about that animism piece. And the fasting really allows you to drop into that, drop beneath the layers of society that, we're the only ones that aren't at home out there. We really are. Everything else is right on time, right in the perfect place, has no question of itself, and is perfectly at home and perfectly naked, right? Yeah. It's perfectly naked. No other animal is got its, its gear bag and its fucking REI clothes on.
Yeah, I was recounting my story with Chris, because he was interested in going on this 28-day journey that I went on with Boss, and I was like, hey, are you still interested in doing it? Are you still going to do it? And he was like, I don't know, and I started to talk. I was like, you got to do it, man. And as I was talking about it, it was the same thing. I just started to get really emotional because that piece around the disconnection where we're the only ones out of place, in my experience, there's a lot of grief there.
Oh, yeah.
And like, you don't feel it because we're so inculcated. We're so protected, moving from closed, air-conditioned, climate-controlled space to climate-controlled car to office to store to, you know what I mean? And we just if we want to, we never have to interact with nature. And you really have to create those containers and force yourself out there.
That's right.
In order to touch on, for me, what is an immense amount of grief, of a disconnection that is always there in our body, but we can't quite put words to, or we don't even have an awareness around, because we've never had known anything else. Like, we're ignorant to this grief, this idea that there is a whole world happening where it's perfection. Like, one of the big insights I got when I was out there is there was a level, I can't remember the exact words I used, but it was like, there's a pristine awareness. I think that's exactly what I said, that exists out there. And I wrote all about it in this book. I filled these little journals, just like 4 or 5 of them, right? Just writing these profound, just the how pristine it is when you're out there, that everything is in its place. Like that, I kept thinking of that Lao Tzu quote, like, nature never hurries, yet everything is accomplished, right? And just being out there and being like, oh my God, what are we doing? Like, why am I struggling? Why am I stressed? Why am I in such a hurry? I came home, I'm like, I'm never hurrying again. I'm never doing anything in a rush again. Totally. But you can't even comprehend.
No, you cannot.
Like, what the fuck I'm talking about until you've been in that situation 3-4 days beyond, right? Where you realize, oh, this is the cycle of nature. This is the speed of life. This is the perfection that even right now, as we hear the birds chirp and everything, that everything is out here is really as it is and as it's meant to be.
And so are we. So are we in our own bizarre, fucked up human way. Like, we are also absolutely perfect in wherever we are in our journey. And for men, especially, just as you said, like, no one's going to come and give you that experience. No one's going to come and say, hey man, time to go out into nature, time to get initiated. Like, you're ready. No one's going to fucking say that. We have to do it despite the fact that we're afraid we're not ready. Or despite the fact that everything's okay, seemingly. So for me, another part of my experience was feeling like I'm changing the line. I'm changing the guard. Like, I'm the first man to be initiated in my family in 2, 3, 4 generations. Who knows? Like, quite a long time. I'm the first man to do a rite of passage in the old way for who knows how long. But the thing that gave me strength, a big part of it, was that I wasn't doing it just for me. I had this moment day 3 where I was fucking struggling. Day 3 is the day of the death lodge, as they say, the day where what really needs to die dies. And there was this moment where just struggling, man. And all of a sudden I had this, as you say, like, I was just laying there, I would sit. There were some guys who would walk around and stuff like that, but I really just stuck to my little spot. And I was sitting there and, like, struggling, and all of a sudden this insight came, and it was like, I'm only struggling because I'm making this about me and how I'm suffering right now. But if I were to take on the fact that I'm not doing this just for myself, I'm doing it for my family, I'm doing it for my future kids. When I took that on, the struggle disappeared. The suffering went away. Because all of a sudden it wasn't just about me. It was about the fact that I was doing this for my kids. I was doing this for their kids. I was doing it for those who came after me, so that they could have a better life. My whole mantra, the first 2 days out there, I was fucking not looking. I was scared, man. I was scared to go out there. I was scared. I was nervous. I was excited. I was a whole slew of things. But my mantra was 4 days for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'm going to go sacrifice 4 days so that the rest of my life can be spent in a better way. And what I realized was it's not just for the rest of my life, but it's for the lives that come after me.
Absolutely.
And that made it so much easier, so much lighter.
Yeah, so often we can get that's just another cultural thing. It's like we get so self-absorbed and individualistic, and we forget that life is actually so much easier when we're doing things for people beyond us, whether it's the children that we have or haven't had yet, or we're in service of others. That there's so much more. We're always going to have more energy and more commitment to do things in service of the greater than in service of ourselves oftentimes, because then it's not about, we're not making it about our own emotional state or physical state in the given moment, because it's like beyond that, it's almost like when you cook for yourself, you'll do a half-assed job, but when you're cooking for others, you'll always like put that little bit of extra effort in. It's kind of like that analogy.
Yeah.
Where when you find and it's just like the work we do. It's the same thing.
Same thing.
It's like, man, when I step into that space and I'm really serving others and I spend an hour of my time, but it could change the arc of their life forever. Just the reverence and the love and taking the focus off ourselves and onto something that might change the lives of that man's children or that man's relationship and like his entire lineage. There's just something so deeply, I don't know. It's beautiful, but it's more than that. It's sacred.
Yeah.
Like and I think that's what I'm hearing you say too, is like part of this rite of passage is for me to come back to my community as a man, but another part of it is so I can come back as a man to be of service.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To like to be refined and to clear some things away and to have that marked moment where it's like, okay, now I'm stepping into holding instead of being held.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. And that is the role of the man. Mm-hmm. To hold. Mm-hmm. To hold. And to be held by other good men. Right? To have good men at it. Like now, like I feel a different man. Like I'm not the same man that I came out there as.
What do you think the biggest marked difference is for you in terms of maybe how you feel or how you're approaching life coming out of that experience?
Well, for one, there's a deeper connection to to the part of me that is deeply connected to like the medicine of nature that I didn't have before. And then you could say that like to God or to spirit or to something greater than ourselves. There's just a different level of depth to my connection to that. And trust of like that's animated spirit in all things that's always talking. Like I can hear it now so much more clearly. And I feel myself as a different man because of it. Like I've faced the thing that was probably the most scary thing for me, like the thing I was most afraid of. And things had to die for me to do that. And I've come back on the other side, still alive, still here. And there's something kind of, I can't even describe it. There's just a sense, it's like I know, it's like I've known death in a different way, and so I know life in a different way. And I remember like the first time I've got a Gold's Gym down the street, I went back to it after the fast, and I looked around at all these like young men, and I was like, they don't know that. No, they don't, and even young men in their 50s, like there's just something to be that happens to us out there when we let go of mommy, we let go of the physical mommy, our infantile boyish thing, and face death. Yeah, face the death of all the things that we really like and prefer and blah blah blah, and have to, and food, let go of the thing that we think is going to keep us alive so that we can find the nourishment in something greater, in something in here, right? That fucking fire in our belly, that's our purpose. That's the real thing we're fucking here for. And to do that with a group of men who are gonna support you in it. There's nothing like it, man. Like, it's probably the greatest thing I've ever done for myself. And I've done a lot of fucking things. But it just gave me a strength of spirit in myself that, first of all, a big lesson for me was that I thought I was going to go out there and fucking pray for a vision and the skies were going to open and eagles soar over and it was going to be like, all right, sweet, I'm good to go, done, got my vision, and everything's easy peasy. It wasn't like that at all. Out there when you're not eating, you're not drinking, you're not like distracting yourself. You're just sitting. Time moves so slow. So slow. You think the sun's moving backwards sometimes, And so I realized day one, like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. It's not going to come easy. And it's not going to come in this big ecstatic peak moment. And I realized that in life, I was waiting for things to come easily.
Expectations,
exactly.
Right? It's almost like we're anticipating something, and then it feels even longer, right?
Yeah.
They're like, okay, come on, vision, like, where are you?
Well, that, and also just like I'm a good guy. Yeah. I'm a good boy. So I think life's gonna give to me.
Give me stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a bit of entitlement.
Yes,
there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm praying, right? I've got it down. I'm doing it right. Like, oh, life's just gonna give it to me. No, like, it was gonna take my effort. It was gonna take my prayer. It was gonna take my engagement with it to receive it. And also to like drop fucking everything that isn't it. Mm-hmm. Like, be willing to drop everything that isn't it. So that was a big one for me. And really what I started to do was just listen to what wanted to happen and then do it. And at the same time, listen to nature. Nature's always talking to us. And particularly when we're praying and we have a strong intention, she answers. And you just have to know how to see it. And so really, there was only one. Actually, no, I'm gonna hold that. There was one vision that I actually received, but I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it in
your
here
heart.
for now.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I think it's ironic too for me having that experience in nature, especially the portion that I was alone because I was with a group for a lot of the month as well. Is despite not having food, despite drinking water that was not the cleanest water I've ever drank, literally sleeping on the dirt, no distraction, nothing to do. How ecstatic I was in moments of just like, wow, I have refined and simplified my life to literally the bare necessities, where I'm only focusing on taking care of the absolute biological needs that I have. And I've never felt more free.
Yeah.
I've never felt more connected. I've never felt more at peace with how life is. And I've never been so, like, yes, the days went by slow, but I kind of relished in it. And sometimes it was like, holy shit, this is a long day, but I don't even know what time it is. But other times it's like I'm relishing in the moment. Like, talk about presence.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's hilarious because I think, you know, especially communities like this and in Austin and other places, it's like go, like entrepreneur, but also like mindful meditation, be present, be aware. It's like, you don't know fuck all about awareness. You know, you want to be aware, like, just go. You don't have to meditate even out there. You don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
There's no choice but to be present. You want an experience of presence?
Yeah.
Go put yourself in where, like, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you have no fucking clue what time it is, you know, and you've removed all of the, like you said, like the mommy, like you've removed all the things that you can grasp onto. There's nothing but presence and awareness out there. That's all that's left over.
That's all there is. When you let go of all that stuff, that's all there is.
No amount of plant medicines and meditation and biohacking and everything that you layer on top.
That's just doing.
To get back to presence.
Exactly.
It's hilarious because it's no. It's get rid of all that stuff.
Yeah.
Get rid of all your expectations. Get rid of the yearning, the trying, the entitlement, all the stuff that, like, you practice in the right language and the workshops and all the shit that people try to do to get back into that primordial state that always already is the natural state of being a human. Yeah. And we've layered all this stuff on top of it. And then we layer more on top of it to try to get back to it without realizing it's the stuff that we have to remove.
That's just the spiritual version of buying a car, fucking getting the house, getting the perfect partner. Like, that's just the same thing. We're doing to get back to some place that feels like
back to being, essentially, right? It's like you can't do your way into being. You just got to be. Yeah. And what it takes in our modern society is that you literally have to. I'm imagining, like, someone just getting, like, plucked out from above and just taken and, like, dropped into the middle of an environment that's disorienting. They don't know where they are, and the only option they have is to be. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's exactly it. And I remember before I left, my lady was like, "What are you going to do out there?" And I thought about it for a second, and I said, "Listen. I'm going to listen." Yeah. Because that's really all there is to do when you're out there. You just,
it's something we're so bad at too, especially men.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, I know the answer. Like,
exactly.
No, I know what to do. Oh, the more action I take, like, the more results I get, or whatever like that. It's like, oh, have you even stopped to listen? Yeah. Have you even stopped for a moment of breath? Like, really?
Yeah, man. But there really is, it's like in Vipassana, I say, there's 3 levels of wisdom. The wisdom that you read in books, scriptures, things like that. You read online, you read on fucking Instagram. Mm-hmm. They're laughing.
We're listening.
Second is the wisdom that you hear from teachers, right? That you hear from fucking podcasts or whatever it is, or your teacher, your guru, whatever. The third and the highest wisdom is the wisdom of your direct experience. Yeah. And nothing beats that. You cannot get that from your teacher. You cannot get that from the book. You have to go out there and, ideally you pluck yourself from your environment and you put yourself into that place where you're perfectly held by a container, but you do get disoriented. You do go into the darkness. You do have to go straight into the thing you're most afraid of to find out. Like fucking Terence McKenna said that what I forget what exactly, but it was like life is about throwing yourself into the abyss and learning that it's a featherbed. Like that's the fucking thing. It's like going straight, and that was a part of. We were all we needed a big why. You really need a big why to go out there. You can't just be like, yeah, it seems cool, I want to go do that. Like, no, you got to have a deep calling to be able to face the kind of things that you're going to face out there. Mm-hmm. And so to have a power statement or something that you really rely on while you're out there is an important piece. And they gave us, the opportunity to create those. And mine was, my name is Allan McGrath. I am an initiated man of God who enters the caves that he fears so that he may embrace and live up to the power, the greatness, and the love that his Creator granted him, so that his children and his children's children can do the same.
Damn, dude. That's powerful.
And that's what got me through it. That was my why. And so I call on that every day now.
I love it.
I sit on my meditation cushion and call on that every day. I come out here, under that rock out there, feel nature, feel that part of me. And it's opened up a whole new depth of my being. I've spent a lot of fucking time getting after depth. Putting myself into places to find it. But really it's about going out and taking away, as we said, all the things so that it can find us.
Yeah.
Like that's really it. You're not questing to find something. You go on the quest so that you can remove all the things you think you need so that it can find you.
Absolutely. What would you say to, maybe a man's watching or listening to this and he's maybe even unfamiliar with some of the language, or it's like, whoa, that seems like, what would the first steps you would give, to a man who wants to cultivate depth, who wants to cultivate presence, who knows there's perhaps a deeper path laid out for him, but maybe he's stuck in the normal musings of life, the distractions, and like you and I both felt, and I think many, many men feel this, and it's why when they get into men's work, they just like, oh, this is the thing, is because there's like a deep yearning in their soul to have an experience that there's some layer of life that's missing. What would you say to men that are kind of there in terms of taking the next step?
I would say find the men that inspire you and put yourself in their orbit. Find the men that inspire you and put yourself in their orbit. Because being in their orbit, whether it's whatever, their men's group or their newsletter or their, ideally in person with them. Because in person, there's a transmission that you're not going to get through Instagram. You're not going to get through Twitter, your newsletter. It's like being in person with them, your body is going to be impacted by them. Like your life is going to be impacted by them. And the next thing, like the next step on your journey will present itself. But even if it's as simple as like joining an online men's group where you can be like, wow, that guy is fucking deep. Like, and it can be a reflection of what you want to grow into. If you're just in your own little world, it's going to be hard to grow because there's no reflections to call you forward to the next thing. So I would say find the guys who inspire you. Put yourself in their orbit, however that looks, whether it's working with them for a fucking year intensely or being on their newsletter and just digesting their, transmission through that. But that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I would agree. It's such a overused colloquy or whatever it is. Like you're the average of the 5 best people you put yourself around. But there is some like deep truth to surrounding yourself with the information, the learning, whatever it is, the podcast, the newsletters, but definitely the experiences, like you said. Direct experience is the path, right? And I know for me and from what you've shared and so many of the men that we work with, once you get a taste of that medicine, there's really no going back. Yeah. Right? There's really no going back.
Particularly if it scares you. Like find that thing.
It almost has to.
It has to. Find that thing that's like, oh, that sounds like so exciting, but I'm terrified. Ooh, that's the spot. Go there.
Absolutely. Well, I want to honor our time. I know you got another commitment coming up in a few minutes. But saying that, I guess, how can people interact with you? Are you offering anything? Is there a way that, if men hear your story and they resonate with it, that you could bring them into your world? Maybe just share a little bit about what you offer. There's so much more that we didn't cover that I know you do. I wanted to talk about polarity and relationship, and we're going to have to save that all for another podcast, because I really liked what we talked about today and just going deep on the vision and nature and that kind of connection. But where can people find you? How can they connect with you, and how could they work with you if they want to?
Well, the best way to work with me right now is one-on-one. That's where you're going to go the deepest. You're going to get the most, and you're going to really transform in a deep way. Like I say, get that direct transmission from somebody. That's the way that I've become the way I am. Like getting to that person that I see, that I admire, and putting myself in their orbit. So working with him one-on-one is what I would recommend for the guys who are called. I've got a program coming out here soon called King that's going to be about masculine mastery in relationship to the feminine. That I'm really excited about. It's going to be a new offering, and that will be That will be some live components online, but some teaching modules as well, so that guys can kind of consume it at their own pace. And then they can follow me on Instagram. I am Allan McGrath, and I've got a last thing is a co-ed coaching group called the Embodied Coaching Dojo that is a fucking awesome group of men and women. We meet twice a month to dive in on all things sex, money, God, relationship, embodiment, polarity. Really, it's a place for people to get coaching, but in a group space, and also get that community support, right? Like having a community of people who are dedicated to their growth is so valuable. So valuable. And you're not going to get that on a YouTube channel. Like it's got to be, you got to feel somebody's heart to really have that and be inspired by it. So, yeah, those are the ways.
Well, I can attest to your depth and to the gifts that you offer. So if anyone does feel inclined to work with this work with you after listening to this, you know, I can vouch for you. Highly recommend your work. Clearly, you know, you've been on this journey for a while, and there's so much more here that we can unpack that I would love to sit down and do again. But yeah, man, I just want to thank you for having this conversation with me. Thanks, and just I appreciate everything you do. I appreciate the gifts that you give the world, and I love you, man. And I'm happy to call you an ally in life, man, because you've become a real brother to me in the last few years.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you, brother. I received that. I love you too. Look forward to more. Thanks for having me on today.
All right, brother.